to the Around bonus segment. If you're a Patreon subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact for free, hey, you know what? Tell a friend. That's all I ask. All right, so we're talking about growing up and getting better. That's our bonus topic this week. There was an article on F-Stoppers about a guy named Andrew Richardson. Basically, he wrote it, not about him. And he's talking about his experience, how he interned at a major paper, and the training that essentially brought him. So, it opened up his eyes to the realities of real photojournalism. We've talked about training in the past. We've talked about the importance of things like workshops or online training, or, how do we get ourselves better? And in this case, it seems like, for him anyways, it was the trial by fire, the actual doing it, that provided him the best quality training he could have for what he did. So what I want to know from you, panel, is, has ever there been an experience like that for you? Have you ever had a point in your career, or at some point maybe you thought you were, you grew from being sort of an amateur, sort of a beginner, and you kind of grew into sort of the photographer you are today, or at least put you on the path to where you are today? Yeah, you mentioned working as a staff photographer, and how you said your work sucked. How do you get from there to where you are now in your head, in your mind?
I think there's only. I think workshops are great. I've attended quite a few workshops over the years. I've taught a few workshops over the years. That said, I think that almost all growth in our industry comes from two things. One is looking at other folks' work, seeing what you like, learning about your own style, what appeals to you. But I think the most important thing, honest to God, is growing up. I was a staffer for a hair under 6 years when I started out, and I started out very young too. And looking back, during the first panel, you asked me where I'm published and whatnot, and I think, like a lot of photographers, you remember the screw-ups more than the things you do well. There's certainly been things that I've done very well over the years. I hardly recall them. And the things that really stick with me are the times when I blew a deadline, when I missed an assignment, when I totally misunderstood something, when I had a terrible assignment when I was very young. I was 21, 22 years old. Someone sent me to do a portrait of Louis Black, and I shot, this was still on film times too, so I shot 3 or 4 rolls of him, and exactly one frame was in focus. Because we relying on the autofocus. I have never done it since. I've never used autofocus once in my life since then. And it's those things that you learn lessons from. And without it, you're never going to grow, because you need to have those experiences. I think it's true in photography, in life, in relationships, in everything, that it's not about regrets, it's about learning lessons.
Very
Federica?
wise. Yeah, certainly learning and just putting yourself out there. Personally, for me, the kind of life-changing experience of where it really got me to a different level in photography was attending the Missouri Photo Workshop. I did that 2 years ago, and the Missouri Photo Workshop has over 60 years, history. It's a one-week workshop that is organized through the School of Photojournalism of the Missouri School of Journalism. And basically, it's a little town that they choose every year, and 50 students show up with about, 12, 15 people, faculty. And the faculty is some of the best photographers, photojournalists, and editor in the industry. And you're basically put through the grind for 1 week, because the town has been kind of prepped for your presence, and you have to go in the community and look for a story. And you only have 400 frames to shoot the whole story.
Oh, wow. 400 frames, wow.
Yes, only 400 frames. So it's done really old school, because obviously it was done at the time of film, when they would give you 10 rolls of film. And to this day, they kind of stick to that principle. And the workshop started on Saturday night. Saturday night. And by Thursday, I kind of got what it really meant, to having to shoot a story in 400 frames. Nowadays, we shoot 400 frames in 2 hours or less. So it was very challenging, but I had 2 phenomenal faculty, Randy Olson and Erica Larson, both National Geographic, and it was a huge learning experience. I also had phenomenal fellow photographers that have done amazing things, and it was really beautiful. You really had a sense of the the history behind the workshop, the level of professionalism that goes into it, and the fact that it's a privilege to be a photojournalist and to go out there and to go into people's lives. And if you can do a good story in a small little town, you can do many great stories out there in the world. So.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Zach, how about you, Sue?
I'm sorry, I'm still horrified by the idea of having only 400 frames.
Imagine you're down like 375 or 390, and you're like,
trust me, I've been there.
I think I'd love it though. It would make you being forced to put the energy into each image and really think about what you're doing.
That's exactly right.
It's one of the reasons I every once in a great while I try to I take my Seagull out and film is so expensive for that stuff, so like I'll maybe have 2 rolls of film and so like what I have 24 or 36 or whatever it works out to be depending on how many rolls, and force myself to only use those photos over an entire day trip, and it's torture because I love digital. I completely changed the way that I shoot and everything that I do once digital came along. But for me, I haven't really done a workshop, or it's been 15 years. Oh my God, 12 or 15 years since I've been in school for photography. And but really, the thing that changed me, I think, that turned me into a reliable photographer is Occupy Wall Street. And I was working as a freelancer. And so completely no assignments, no anything, no focus. So I had to, it was about the time that I decided that I was going to be a photojournalist as opposed to any of the other kind of worlds of journalism that I worked in, because I worked as a videographer, I worked as a researcher, as a writer, as a straight up journalist, writing stories. And Occupy Wall Street was day in, day out. You're covering relatively similar stories and trying to figure out how to make it so that the photos that you're trying to sell from 2 days ago are at least somewhat different in some way than the photos you're trying to sell today. And that was, especially considering once Occupy Wall Street got going, even then it was 1,000 people, it was 1,000, 2,000 people, and the people that you're photographing are the same, but honestly the same 2-3 dozen people. That was a really, really tough thing, and I would once I got really good about doing it and figuring out what frames I was going to try to do and anything I was going to try new, be able to walk away with a photo essay was basically my end goal of the day. And I would say by like the second or third month, I got to that point because it was just endless. And it also helped a lot that I was working at B&H Photo Video at the time, so I would literally post my photos on wherever, Flickr, on Facebook, on kind of the photos that didn't sell, and then I would have the entire staff of B&H Photo Video, who are all professional photographers, edit my work essentially, and that was basically the only way. Since I've never worked for a daily newspaper, I've never had a full-time photo job. That was kind of the only way that it really turned me into, I would say, something at least close to a professional photographer.
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that just the medium does just even changes the kind of photographer you are. 2 of the 3 of you have seen me shoot, and I'm a very, very heavy shooter. But yeah. I'll go on travel assignments, and I bring with me a 645, and I bring 120 to 220s. And I go from being a very heavy, take a picture, if it works, it works, if it doesn't work, who cares, I can take 3,000 more of them today, kind of shooter, to all of a sudden, boom, I'm Ansel Adams. And I'll sit there for 2 hours waiting for the sun to get just right, because those pictures, now it's $5 a frame or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Film. And it changes everything about the kind of photographer you are, and it does make you better. And I can definitely see, I can't personally imagine trying to shoot a news story with 400 frames, but I can imagine it would be a better product doing it, though, for sure.
Yeah.
You really have to kind of pre-plan what you're going to shoot if you only have that limited amount of capability. You kind of have to think about, what do I need to get, and then how do I shoot that? Or you just shoot very sparingly.
Yeah, I mean, these are simple stories. Obviously, these are stories that happen in a small town, so it's not an action-packed week generally, but yeah, it's. I think most people really can stick to it because they're very fiscal. They know how many you shoot and they keep track. They give you back your memory card in a little envelope with the number left, and you see the number going down, and it's a little scary.
You know what you do? You just shoot on a different memory card. And you
No, trust me. They've been at this for a long time. They're pretty smart guys. You can't get away with it, trust me. And the best part is that also you submit your files without even touching them. So it's raw file. Actually, they want you to shoot JPEG just because of size. You don't touch anything, no software whatsoever. You give them as they are, which yes, it's challenging.
That's very nerve-wracking too. I'd be so scared to show them what I've done without processing the garbage.
Tell me about it. When they first told me that I was gonna give them without going into Lightroom, not even for a second, I almost had a heart attack. I said, "You're kidding me, right?"
I mean, I will say that I've become, thanks to Endless being able to take shots and just burst mode and everything like that, especially covering like the campaign trail, where you're just constantly like there's stage lights or whatever, and you're playing with them and you're trying different things on a constant basis. But I've become like I'm editing a set from doing my wider edit right now in the back of this browser window is my photos from. No, I'm not doing this right now. Don't worry, I'm paying attention. But is my photos from a Bernie rally in Syracuse, a Bernie Sanders rally in Syracuse, and oh my God, I mean, if it wasn't for raw photos, like the few times I've had this weird problem lately where my camera is switching to a different mode and thus switching to JPEG, and I just literally basically throw out those photos. Like I've become and it kills me because I've become such a lazy photographer this way, and I know it because I mean I used to very much I was very good in the darkroom, but I hated spending a lot of time editing kind of photojournalism style stuff, any work that I would do. I would spend time doing artsy stuff, maybe, doing more Ansel Adams style editing of every inch of the frame, sort of thing. But for the most part, I like shooting straight out of the camera, and I have seen so much as a photographer since I edit my own stuff constantly. I can do kind of anything I want. So.
I think for me, the part where I sort of switched from being a guy who thought he was a good photographer to actually being a good photographer, and it's funny actually kind of how the story mentions where in the story, he talks about how in college he was, the #1 hot stuff guy, right, with the photography, and then he got to an actual newspaper and he realized, wow, there's so much more to learn. It was kind of the opposite for me, where when I went to Syracuse for the military photojournalism program, that's what opened my eyes, because I've been doing photography at that point for about 4 years or so. So I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I knew how to capture a frame, and I did to a point. But to really be able to tell a story with photography, that's not something that was ever really, not to the level that a college course like the MPJ program provides. You never got that level and detail of, hey, we're going to tell a story with these pictures, so you have to think about it in this level of detail.
Yeah.
So that's what really opened my eyes, because before then I thought, oh man, I knew this thing down, but I was like, oh my God, I know nothing, and that really kind of helped build me back up in terms of being a much better photographer, photojournalist than I was at the time. So that's what I attribute to any growth I've been able to capture, and also the workshops we did during that year. That was an awesome time as well. So yay, workshops.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much it. Anybody else have any comments? Anything else they'd like to add? Maybe we should try a 200 photo challenge, huh?
God.
How about 24 frames? Tell a story in 24 frames.
Let's just shoot it with a Hasselblad then. That makes it so much easier. Film, obviously, not DSLR.
God. Well, Hasselblad just came out with the 100 megapixel camera.
Yeah. I was just thinking the good old thing for $1,000.
You know what?
Oh no! Come on, let's all get $33,000 cameras, try them out, and come back.
It's not about the camera. Sorry, I'm a firm believer that it's about the eyes. It's what you look at that matters. How you look at things, no matter what camera you have.
All right. Awesome. Good words
Okay.
to live by. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to add before we end this bonus segment? All right. Well, this has been a bonus segment. Again, thank you for watching, listening, or however you're getting this information into your brain. This is our bonus segment. We will see you all next week. Have a good night, everybody.